What if I told you that the ancients didn't meditate by sitting quietly like we do today? They didn't close their eyes hoping for something to happen. They didn't count breaths or repeat mantras. What they did was much wilder, more real, more physical, and way more powerful. They had a deep understanding of the body that we've lost today. They didn't talk about chakras or the mind. Instead, they moved a bone. Yes, one bone, but not just any bone. One that, when moved, opened a door we have now completely shut. At first, I didn't believe it. I thought it was just another mystical story. But then I tried it and felt something inside me shift, something I had never felt before. It was like my whole body remembered something very old, like a memory that wasn't even mine had woken up. That's when I understood why they didn't need to sit still waiting for silence. Because silence wasn't outside, it was inside, right where everything starts, in the most forgotten center of your spine. Today I'm going to show you what I learned and how you can move that bone too. But first, let me explain where this comes from. It didn't come from books. It was born in caves, in rituals, in dances, and in bodies that knew things we have forgotten. I'll never forget the first time someone spoke to me about the sacrum. It wasn't in a temple or anatomy class. It was an old woman with sun-weathered skin living in the mountains. She was one of those people who don't need many words to make you feel you are facing something important. She said, "You look up, but what wakes up is down below. Everything begins at the base." I didn't understand or didn't want to, until she showed me a hand-drawn sketch on a piece of old leather. It wasn't a chakra or some spiritual symbol, it was a bone, shaped like a small folded wing with a spiral carved into it. I looked at it silently, and she said, "That bone is the door. If you don't move it, you never enter." Later, I found out that bone is called the sacrum. And yes, the name means sacred in Latin. The ancients knew this, not because they studied it, but because they felt it. In tribal dances, deep breaths, and ritual walks through the jungle, the sacrum was more than a bone in your spine, it was the foundation. The place where your most basic energy begins. It's shaped unlike any other bone, 5 fused vertebrae like a shield, sitting at the center of your pelvis, like a bowl holding life. Did you know the Egyptians believed it was the first bone to be reborn after death? That the Greeks called it the throne of the soul? And that some shamanic rituals didn't touch the body but sang around the sacrum? For centuries, this bone was the heart of secret practices, but eventually, we forgot. We erased it. We replaced it with mental images and exercises that only touched the surface. We lost connection with the deep body, and with it, a door closed. But the body never forgets. It just waits. And if you learn to move this bone, not by force but by intention, something inside you begins to wake. It's like a current that was asleep starts to rise, to pulse, to whisper things beyond the mind. I felt this one night, alone on the floor, without music or guides, just breathing, barely moving my pelvis, letting the sacrum loosen, and suddenly a wave of heat ran up my back. It wasn't pleasure or pain, it was like opening a gate that had been closed since before I was born. You don't have to understand it all now. Just know this bone exists and is called sacred for a reason. It holds something, a pulse, a key, a memory in the body that no thought can replace. That key is ready to move with you. It's not about moving your body like exercise. It's not dance or stretching. It's something different. It's like moving something invisible that wakes up when you do it right. That was the first mistake I made. I thought it was just about moving the body, tilting the hips, rocking the pelvis, doing some steps like a routine without feeling. Nothing happened until I understood what the woman from the mountains had tried to tell me without words. This movement is not just physical. It's done with the body and with focused awareness, because the sacrum doesn't respond to force, it responds to presence. Imagine you are sitting on the ground, not on a chair or a fancy yoga cushion bought online, but right on the earth. No music, no noise, no guide, just you and gravity. Your breath slows down. You start to feel your weight. You notice your sitting bones touching the ground, the base of your spine, and right there, the sacrum. You don't have to understand its shape, just feel it. That bone doesn't move like others, but it vibrates when you call it in the right way. Now, gently rock your pelvis a little forward and backward. It's not a big move, more like a quiet talk with your base, like asking, "Are you there?" And after so many years of silence, the body answers with a soft sigh. That answer doesn't come from your mind, it comes from deep inside. And it's not something you force or search for. It comes when you let go and follow the movement. In old cultures, this was part of everything. Before sleeping, before marriage, before making love, before praying, it was a way to connect with life. I've seen stone carvings of people with curved spines, as if calling something from deep inside the earth. I've also felt in my own body how that small movement, which seems simple, can release energy I didn't know was trapped. Some call it a serpent, others call it inner fire. I don't want to name it because no word really fits. But here's what I can say. When you start moving your sacrum with care and respect, something changes inside you. Your whole body feels different, like you are remembering a language you once knew but forgot. I began doing it quietly, a few minutes every morning, eyes closed, sitting on cold ground. After each time, I felt stronger, more present, more alive. Don't expect big signs or drama. This is quiet, real, and yours. You don't have to be fit or flexible. You only need to be willing to move like the ancients did. With your feet on the earth, your body listening, and the sacrum waking up after a long silence. Because the real door was never in the sky, it's always been in your pelvis. It only opens when you open yourself. Sometimes this moment doesn't come the first time, or even the second, but if you keep going, if you surrender without expecting, it will come. It's not flashy or full of visions. It's simpler, and that's why it's real. I experienced this one night when I wasn't looking for anything. I was tired, feeling the weight of the world. I just wanted to breathe and let go. So I sat on the ground like before, letting my body tilt gently, moving the sacrum like I was softly touching it from inside. It was a small movement, but inside me something began to open. First came warmth, then a tremble, not in the muscles. It felt like a soft vibration traveling up my spine from below, like a current that was always there, waiting for this movement to start rising. When it reached my chest, everything stopped. Time paused. What I felt after that is hard to put into words, but I'll try. It was like my body was here, but my awareness had stepped beyond. Everything stayed the same, the room, the air, the night, but my view widened, like the edges of reality softened and a new layer appeared between what's seen and unseen, like a veil lifting slowly. And then I understood, you don't need to leave your body to enter another world. You just need to enter the body you have ignored. The deep body, the vibrational body, the bridge, and the sacrum is the threshold. Years ago, if someone told me this, I would have smiled politely. But now I was living it. The most surprising thing wasn't what I felt, but what I remembered. Yes, I remembered because this wasn't new. It was ancient, like my soul recognized the path and said, "You've been here before." I understood why the ancients didn't need to sit silent for hours. They weren't waiting for the mind to quiet down. They knew that moving the body with awareness opens the door. And that door doesn't lead to a physical place, it leads to a different way of seeing, a finer, more alive reality. A place where everything feels sacred, where the air seems to sing, where you don't just watch, you simply are. After that night, nothing was the same. Not because I saw visions or lights or heard voices, but because I found a place inside me I can always come back to. A place beyond thoughts and words that only opens when I move that bone with honesty. There I understood what movement really means. It's not exercise or therapy. It's an offering. Every time you move the sacrum with intention, you tell your body, I'm ready to enter. And the body, which kept that secret for generations, lets you through. Only if you do it from the center. Only if you give in to the rhythm inside. Only if you listen more than push. When you enter, you know you're not alone. Many before you walked this path and left an invisible trail you now follow in the silence, a silence more alive than any noise. That is the other reality. Not a perfect magic place, but a state where you and your body make peace, and your soul finally rests. After experiencing this, you might expect everything to change right away. That life becomes clear, problems disappear, something outside changes because you changed inside. But what I found is simpler and tougher. The world stays the same. The news, the bills, the questions, all stay the same. Only you move. And you who return, having felt your body as an open temple, can't walk the same way again. Because once you cross that door, once you truly feel the sacrum beating like an old drum inside you, you can't ignore it. You can't just sit with eyes closed, waiting for something to drop from the sky. You can't pretend anymore that everything is just in the mind, or in fancy spiritual ideas that fill books. Now you know there is a root, and that root is alive and moving. That was the real change, not what I saw or felt, but the coming back. Coming back to daily life, but with stronger feet. Coming back to talk to others, but also listening to what your body says. Coming back to silence and realizing it's not empty anymore, but a pulse. A rhythm inside that was always there but never wanted to be heard. And when you listen, everything changes, not because the world is different, but because you now know there is another way to be in it. A way that's more natural, more ancient, more real. Look, no one will teach you this in school, yoga classes, or online courses promising enlightenment in 7 steps. Because this isn't taught, it's remembered. And that memory doesn't come from your head, it comes from below, from the ground, from the bone, the sacred bone you've carried since birth, the one that holds everything else, the one there before you even learned to speak. There is something very freeing in that. Knowing you don't need more theories or paths. You just need to return to yourself, to your body, to the place where spirit and body are one. I'm not here to convince you. I don't have proofs or formulas. I only share what I lived. Because if you feel even a little spark, you'll know this isn't just a story. It's a call to wake up what's asleep inside you, to stop trying to escape upwards and start living deep inside. To stop chasing something outside you, because what you're looking for already lives inside you. It's in that bone, in that movement, in that moment when you let go. The rest is practice, not practice to get something, but practice to remember. And if any of this touched you, if something inside your body made a small sound, then I invite you to one thing: move slowly with meaning and soul, and let your body guide you. Maybe the ancients never left written instructions because the real teaching is already written in your bones. You just need to listen again. After living all this, I asked myself a question that changed everything. What if the body isn't just a tool, but a text? Not a text read with eyes or reason, but with presence. A book not written with ink, but with memory. Not printed on paper, but in flesh, bone, blood, and movement. That idea didn't come from a book, it came from deep silence after practice. A strange feeling, like something inside was watching me, like the body knew I was finally ready to listen. Then I began to remember the pieces. The sacrum that beats like a drum, the breath moving up the spine like a warm wind, the soft pressure of the tongue on the roof of the mouth, the calm heartbeat. These weren't just feelings, they were signs, pages, parts of a sacred story I carried inside. And I understood, there is no better map than the body, no more honest temple, no truer teacher. The ancients knew this. That's why they danced without set moves. They breathed as if every breath was a prayer. They lay on the earth not to rest, but to be read by it. They didn't see a split between body and spirit because for them the body was sacred, an altar, the language of the gods. But we forgot. We tamed it, locked it inside names, diagnoses, and labels. We taught it to stay still, not to feel, to obey. But the body isn't that. The body is wild and wise. It's a book that vibrates, a map where every joint, organ, and line tells a story. And the most powerful thing? That book isn't the same for everyone. Every body speaks in its own way, with its own sacred handwriting. That's why no single method works for all. Because you have your own body's alphabet, you only need to remember it. Once, while walking without aim, I felt my feet step differently. It wasn't the ground that changed, it was me. I felt every step like a word, every breath like a page, every shiver like a line being written right then. And I told myself, I'm reading my body, and my body is reading me. After that, everything changed. I didn't stand before the mirror to judge myself anymore. I stood to look at the body's story, to ask what it wanted to show me today, what part of itself it wanted to share. Some days the pelvis wants to move like it's dancing with fire. Other days the chest wants to open easily. And some days it just wants silence. That's okay, too. Reading the body isn't forcing it to speak. It's being patient enough for it to speak when it's ready. And when that happens, when you really listen, the body teaches you things no teacher ever could. Where does your fear live? Where does your strength rest? Where did you hide your voice? And how do you come back to yourself without running away from the world? That is the true art. Not enlightenment or transcendence, but embodiment. To live the sacred, to carry your body's story, to come home to yourself like someone returning after a long exile. Then every movement becomes a ritual, every breath a song, every gesture a word in the language the ancients spoke without words. That language still lives in you, in your bones, in your sacrum, in your own way of moving and pausing. It just needs you to open it, like a forgotten book finally seen by someone willing to read. There is a moment when you don't need more words, ideas, or questions, just one gesture. One simple gesture that doesn't come from ego or trying to achieve something, but from that deep place inside where everything you've heard, felt, and remembered starts to come together. I didn't know what that gesture was at first. I thought it was about stretching, tensing, or relaxing. I tried many things, breathing, postures, tightening, but nothing unlocked the story until one night, more tired than wise, I stopped searching. I lay down on the floor without a pillow, back fully resting, legs bent like something inside me wanted to curl up. I pressed my feet on the ground and felt the sacrum touching the earth. Then something happened. It wasn't a flash or a vision, just a small impulse, a feeling born not in my head but in my belly. Slowly, I gently pulled my belly button inward, like breathing into my spine, and at the same time barely lifted the center of my pelvis, as if an invisible string was pulling it upward. The movement was so small no one outside would notice, but inside, it felt like a spark deep down. A warm, thick, almost flowing energy started moving through my spine, like that movement was the missing key. That small inner motion was the switch. It wasn't flashy or hard. It was sacred because it didn't come from the movement itself but from where it came, from letting go, from listening, from the place where you stop trying to control and let the body speak. Then I realized that all the ancient symbols, spirals, columns, wings, serpents, were about this, the awakening that happens when the body is finally touched from inside. The sacrum became like a bowl, the belly like a glowing ember, and the spine a channel connecting not just bones but whole realities. After that, I repeated that gesture many times, not as a technique, but like a silent prayer. Each time something new came up. Sometimes a memory, sometimes a tear with no reason, sometimes just a big silence that didn't weigh me down but held me gently. It felt like my body was saying, "Thank you for coming back." And I understood something more. This movement isn't a tool to take you somewhere else. It's not a way to escape. It's a way of being, of living inside, of lighting up the book that was always closed. You don't have to do it the same way I did. Your body will find its own movement because every body has its own key, and yours is waiting. All you need is to stay with yourself long enough until that key shows up. And when it does, you'll know it wasn't something new you found, it was a return. A return to the bone, to the root, to the flame that was always burning but you forgot to see. After the body moves, after the bone speaks, after the energy rises up the spine like an ancient fire tongue, all that's left is silence, but not empty silence. It's a different kind of silence, one you feel in your chest, that stays with you even when the world outside is loud. That's where the real practice starts. Not in the movement itself, or the strong feeling, but in how you come back, how you walk in your home, how you answer when someone interrupts you, how you breathe in the middle of chaos, how you hold a look without trying to control it. That's the hardest part, not starting the energy, but living with it without putting it out. Because after any awakening, big or small, a test comes, not from outside, but from inside. Your body wants to know if you really listened, if that dance with the sacrum was just a visit or the start of a new promise. That promise isn't big or fancy. It needs no vows or ceremonies, just small, daily, deep attention. It's easy to forget. Very easy. The world is full of bright distractions, screens promising answers, voices shouting formulas, recipes, and systems. And the easiest thing is to fall back asleep, to disconnect, to move without thinking, to breathe without feeling, to sit in silence, but with your body turned off. That's why this part isn't the end. It's a reminder that you don't need to do the full ritual every day. You don't need to make a big fire to keep the light alive. Sometimes, it's enough to close your eyes for a moment, bring your attention back to the base, to the bone, to the point of balance you now know is yours, and let that quietness spread, not as a pause, but as a way to become whole. Because once the body starts talking to you, you can't ignore it. You'll feel it in your back when you speak from fear. You'll feel it in your chest when you don't say what you really feel. You'll feel it in your legs when you walk away from your truth. And that feeling will guide you. The ancients didn't need books, they had the body, and the body was their map, their prayer, their mirror. You have it too, even now, even if you feel far away, even if you didn't feel anything big on this journey, it doesn't matter. The real change is the one that stays when there's no show, the one that stays after you close the video and go back to your life. Maybe tonight you'll lie down and do nothing. Just breathe, just feel your body's weight, and maybe without noticing, the sacrum will vibrate again, the memory will open again, the story will light up, and if it does, don't try to explain it or put it into words. Just stay there. One more second, one more quiet moment. And let that quiet shape you. Not to change who you are, but to remind you that you've always been whole, that you didn't come here to get anything, but to live it all, from the bone, from the movement, from yourself.